Hello, and welcome to the 40 to 400 podcast. I am your host, Jamie Daire, and today I have a very special guest, Lucien Gaydos, everybody. Hello, hello,
Hey,
hello, 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 hello.
what's up?
Bam! There we go. There's Mr. Lucien Gaydos, everybody.
On? What's
Yes,
up?
I have the video on now. Sorry about that short delay there. So I got to tell you
No,
what
no.
just happened. As you know, I got a studio at the house I told you guys about, and
Yeah.
um, one of my cousins just brought over a set of steps because I need a set of steps to get up to the landing to go up the stairs of the studio, and so he made some steps for me, and he torched them so they look awesome.
Oh, cool.
He put a top coat on them, but he also burned the wood and wrote "Welcome South of 90" on it.
That's a real cool effect. I always like doing that.
So tomorrow, which is 9/12. If you're on Instagram, you can check it out because I'll be putting a picture up. My Instagram is at Sprangbro. So thanks, cuz Josh. Appreciate that. Means a lot. Yeah. So, how have you been? It's been a while since we've sat. That's why I made the
Right?
coffee because the last time we got together, I believe we drank hot chocolate because that
Chocolate
was
milk.
chocolate milk. Yeah, chocolate milk.
That
That's
was
right.
a random hankering that we had. I never
Yes.
used the word hankering, but for some reason I am now because that's exactly what it was. Yeah, we're sitting here, and I think you randomly called me, and you just said, "You know what? I think I need to get some chocolate milk."
Yes, that
And we
is.
just okay. Where are we doing this? It became like a quest. Where are we
Yes,
getting chocolate milk? And it became Perkins in Edinburgh, which I heard has been resurrected finally.
that's what I've heard. We drove
Yeah,
by it, and it does appear to be open.
good, good.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of those they tend to go away. A lot of those ones.
Especially with COVID
Those
and
Perkins.
everything.
Is the peach one still around?
It probably is. I'm honestly not sure. I haven't gone to
Yeah,
Perkins in some time because they were shut down in Edinburgh. But
right.
which that was a fire, right? A grease
Yeah,
fire or
yeah.
something.
That was a fire. Yeah, I don't know why they. There must have been something that just kind of hung up the works. I'm sure COVID didn't help either.
No, it definitely didn't. Um,
Don't mind these guys. They're just working something out. I don't know what it is. They're pissed off about something. So I mean, they were nice enough to give me one of these though, so that's pretty cool.
oh man, that looks
Yeah, real
awesome.
nice dudes though. I mean, to me, because I haven't picked a side. I'm just letting them do their thing. You know.
The neutral party. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
They're just like, yeah, go ahead and do your talk. We're just gonna deal with this.
so I wanted to introduce you a little bit more to the listeners. So Lucian here is a phenomenal guitar player.
Oh,
He,
you.
I'll stop. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna keep going. I believe the term they say is classically trained. Um, you know,
A little bit. A little bit.
I say that because that's usually the way that we most of us describe it. So you've been playing guitar, I imagine, a pretty long time. Uh,
Since I was 14,
what got you started
which would be
playing?
94. Hmm?
What got you playing? What made you want to pick up a guitar to begin with?
My stepdad.
Hmm.
That had a big part of it, because he had been playing in bands since the 60s in the Erie area, and so I basically had a live-in musician since I was 5, and I would go to his gigs, um, for that early period where you can go into a gig, but they didn't kick you out yet if you were a kid until like 9 o'clock or something like that.
Right.
So that's when I had to go to, like, say, the hotel room where the rented Nintendo was at the Best Western, and go there for the rest of the night and crash out while my mom ran lights and my stepdad's band played and things like that. So there's that, plus my older sister, who indirectly cultivated what I like listening to. So combine those two together, and I guess you have me.
It must have really sparked something, because I know you've dug in deep. You also repair guitars.
That's my main gig now. Yeah.
So what made you pursue learning to fix the guitars? Just out of necessity? That makes sense.
And I was always a tinkerer anyway.
So it gave you something to do, to occupy your hands when you weren't playing?
Yeah. Or when I just needed to play and there was something wrong with it and I didn't want to wait until someone was done fixing it. And because we lived in McCain at the time that I really started playing. And so it was a bit of a, we'd have to take it to Erie, drop it off at Ron Thomas, which was our primary go-to for our amps and repair. And when I got it set up a couple of times, but over time, I just started doing it myself, and I got Dan Erlewine's book. I actually have it right here, the Guitar Player Repair Guide, and I have the old version of it, and then I got a new version of it. And my old version, I actually had the honor of him signing it when I met him a couple of years ago. But it was just out of necessity. I just kept tweaking and not on drugs, but caffeine.
Caffeine, yes.
Pixie sticks.
Nerds.
Nerds. Lost lines out. We had a party in McCain. So we would take. So I just started doing it myself, and then over time I started doing it for a lot of the kids and other bands and things like that. And the garage bands, and hey, you know how to intonate guitars? And of course to them it was black magic because they hadn't done it before. So I was intonating guitars for kids and other bands when I was like 16.
Oh wow, that is pretty early start, huh?
Yeah. And then I was out of touch with my dad for 12 years, and it turned out he was an audio engineer in New York City, and I moved there and stayed with him. And while I was there, I actually got a job as a guitar tech for the first time after that over in Brooklyn.
Wow.
At a place called the Amp Guitar Wellness Center, where I was learning while I was working there. And
so were you were like just on hands learning?
Yeah.
Were you like an apprentice?
Or 20-year-old ass was getting, I was getting that was an education. That was an education.
Were you like an apprentice to someone, or did it?
Yeah. I got some money for it, but I was mainly, there were a lot of things that I was pretty confident of, and so I was a little. There were times where I was a little bullheaded. Sometimes, like I know I don't know a lot, but I know how to do this, or I'd be experimenting with something. And he was in his 60s. And he's like, I already tried it that way. Stop. So I must have been a pain in the ass, but we still get along nowadays, and we talk all the time, though.
The last video I saw of someone setting up a bass guitar was Sadowski. I imagine it's from Sadowski Guitars.
Roger Sadowski, yeah.
Yeah. So I watched a video here, actually pretty recent, of how to set up your bass the easy way. For you, I'm sure you can do that stuff in your sleep, and it's not you've been doing it for quite some time. What is that little thing called that you need to measure the height of the string? Like they have those like little files, or the different ones. Like what would you suggest to someone like me that is not? All right, let me re-ask the question if I may. So hey, I'm very new.
You're talking about the action at the 12th fret.
Well, yes, but let me start again. So, hey, hey, Luke, I have a question for you. So,
okay.
Dude, I saw this beatboxing video earlier. I should totally send it to you. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But
please do.
So I am not familiar with how to set up a guitar. I understand the fundamentals of it, but I do not have any of the tools or anything. What would you suggest to me to be able to set the action, the intonation, the truss rod, and all that? I know it's pretty basic. You need a Phillips for some of the ones that have the on the back of the saddles. I know I have Allen wrenches. I have the correct ones for the bass, but I need to be able to measure the height, like you said, off the 12th fret or wherever.
Sure.
What should I get to be able to do that?
Well, a lot of times, and I can send you a link for it, but they have these business card shaped, um, um,
Is it like a
they're
micrometer or something?
it's like a string ruler. And
Oh,
you can give it to you in thousandths of an inch or in 64ths and things like that. And depending on your playing style and how high you like the action, there's no real right way to set the action, but you do, wherever you put it, you want it to all be in the same height across the radius of the fretboard, though. So get it somewhere where you like it and it's not buzzing, or it's not so high that you're having trouble playing and things like that, because it's very taste oriented.
that
And
would
that's
make
one of the
sense.
reasons why anytime I've been doing setups since I was 14 now. So anytime somebody, but still to this day, anytime I don't know them and I do a setup for them, I always tell them, like, check it out first. Make sure you like it. Oh, I trust you. Oh, I don't have your hands though. I don't play like you. I'm not sure. So check it out. And if you need a tweak, let me know. And most of the time they don't need another tweak, but some people they're really heavy handed and they make it buzz because of how hard they play. And I don't know. Or some people, they like to do the thing where and I'm coming back around to what we were talking about, but like some people will press, and I'm slowing it down and I'm exaggerating to explain it properly. But some people, well, I have a guitar right here. How about that?
Nice. Good
So they'll
thinking.
pluck a note and they kind of do it like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
They'll press and let it go, press and let it go.
Sure.
And at that split second, that string is running wild for a minute and it might hit the frets. And so if you play like that, you might create a little bit of a snap. And the next thing I know is I have to, bring their action up until it's not doing it that much, or I have to explain to them in the nicest way possible that it might just be part of their style, everything else. And when I know that everything else is set, and I tell them I can put as high as I can, bring the action up into the stratosphere. And if that's your style, you might get some rattle out of it. But anyway, so basically you set it where you want it. You put your G where you want it, you put your E where you want it, and then you set those other two strings in relation too. So what I would really recommend are radius gauges.
Radius
It's
gauge.
not as big of a deal with a bass because it's only 4 string. Are you playing 5 or 4?
Playing a 5 string.
Yeah.
Yep.
This could help you then.
Radius gauge. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, you get a set of them. They always come in sets. And I'm not sure which radius. I don't know which radius your fretboard is, but basically you use the same. You lay each one on the fretboard until you get the one that sits perfectly across the entire fretboard. You can't see any light shining through or anything like that.
Okay.
And then you'll know when you bring it back over to the bridge and you check and see how those strings are sitting in correlation to that, into the radius gauge. Now it's a little different with bass, but I still use it from time to time because it still kind of gives you an idea. Because usually what you'll do is you set where you want the G, and then you go up a bit for the D, and up a bit for the A, and then you may bring the E down from the A just a little bit. It's not stepwise like that. It's more like this. But when there's 4 strings, you kind of I know to some people this is a scary thing to say. They get like, but it really kind of is a feel thing. If one of those strings feels too low in relation to the others, when you're plucking on like the 14th or 18th fret or something like that, and you just kind of see how they feel. Oh, this one feels like it's going down further than the rest of them, or this one's hitting the frets faster than the other ones, a little closer. So I'm going to bring it up. Your fingers know.
That would make sense by the pressure and by everything, because you do feel the clicks and stuff. I mean, for anyone that spends any amount of time on a fretboard, that is very, very true. I appreciate the suggestions, and
Anytime.
I'm
Yeah.
and obviously I'll reconvene with you whenever whenever I get everything, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that
Now
because
you set all that after you get the neck where it should be.
okay, so you adjust the neck
Neck is
first.
always first.
Well, that would make
Intonation
sense.
And all that. The intonation's very, very last. That's when you get everything the way you want it. It's like the alignment. The alignment on your card. You get everything else first. You get your ball joints done. You get the right tires. You get all that stuff. Everything's tight. Now you can align it. That's the intonation.
Okay.
because you get your string heights where you want it, you got the neck where you want it, and intonation is a very personal thing too, because you can press a little harder and make that note go sharp.
Do you?
Just by pressing harder. And if you're the kind of person who presses hard, then you can make the note sharper. And I don't do that, but someone else might. Another reason why I tell people, check it out.
Well, because again, people, some people change their strings all the time or change strings every so often, and people don't realize how much of a difference that when you go from one string to another string, it doesn't matter if it's the same size, but if it's a different brand, that you definitely can notice a difference.
Different metal alloy, everything,
everything,
different mixtures, different chords, different core shape, all that.
I've gone through a string change up myself. Over the last, when we met, I was playing bass in some of the rock and metal bands around, as we all remember, and now
I miss those songs, by the way. I would go on MySpace till they brought it down.
Well, one of these days
I
here,
to the center down page.
If
that was tight. I was really bummed out when that didn't keep going.
If you want, I can email you the tracks. I can definitely do that. Whenever we're done, you can message me your email, and I'll get those to you. But as moving forward, so now I play a lot of country music, and for me, switching from the rock and the metal to the country, it wasn't really a big change at first because I was comfortable in my ways. So I just kind of played and just kind of mustered through it from things I learned. Now I've spent the last. I've been playing in this band for like 3 years, but I know at least the last 2, I've been really, really, changing my habits of practicing and trying to do it more often and more productive practices. But especially the last year, I know I've been working really hard at trying to figure out understanding the different scales and in correlation with each other and different things. And that's a rabbit hole we'll get to, but that's what I started doing this podcast for to begin with, is because I wanted to hold myself more accountable for the things that I'm not pushing myself to do or not trying hard enough to do. But
Same.
So getting back to the point at hand was my strings. So I've tried several different kinds. I tried Black Beauties on my nice. That's why I love this guy. It's so good to see you, Lucien. I gotta grab my coffee in a second, but so I've tried Black Beauties. I've tried Daire's. I've tried Ernie Balls. I've tried a couple different brands or different types of each. There was another one that I tried. I can't remember now. But so I was really liking the Daire bass strings. I can't remember the exact thing here. I can look them up while we're talking. But I was really, really, really falling in love with them because when I would dig into the string, I would notice that it didn't have a lot of overplay or a lot of underplay. Yeah. But I also felt like there was no play at all at times, especially on the lower end. I didn't have anywhere to go. So when when I played,
stiff?
Just like a dud.
Okay.
It's not that it was bad, and it's not like it was anything of that type, but sure. I just felt like my hands were fatiguing so much more because I feel like I was trying so much harder to get action out of my strings and stuff. Because a buddy of mine helped me get my intonation, my action, my everything. And at that time, when we were going to do that, we were going to be basing it off of me using no, it wasn't the Daire's. It was right before that. It might have been the DRs. That is it. I was just ready to go through 2020, but yes, it was the DRs. So with the DRs, he helped me set it up to that. But then when I switched over to the Daire's, I noticed a huge difference. And then because I started getting them, and they were I don't even remember the price, maybe $28 or something a set, or they were maybe 31. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Amazon here, the last time I changed my strings, I got the Ernie Ball Slinkies, going back to the OGs, because it was the bass boomers, the GHS bass boomers, were the ones that I was going to start grinding on. I think I had 2-3 revolutions of string sessions, basically, because with the bass guitar you don't have to change them nowhere near as much as anyone that plays guitar does, because the strings last a really long time. Some people, they say that the more broken they are, the better they are, the older they are, the more they have better tone. I can see why people would feel that way.
Just don't give yourself tetanus.
Right, exactly. I got to change this little thing here, but
yeah, some people, they come to me 2 weeks before a gig to get the strings on, because if they have the strings put on like 2 days or whatever before a show, it's too bright for them. Drives them nuts.
I'm trying to get to it's.
So you say it was D'Addarios. What it sounds weird, but what color were they? Were they like a bright silver, or were they like a grayish color?
They were like a silverish color.
Okay.
I think
XLs,
they were
NYXL.
XLs.
XL. Okay.
Yes, sir. XL.
Now, if you want something brighter, the NYXLs and the Pro Steels are bright as hell too.
I appreciate that.
But for country, you probably want something a little more boom, right?
Right, and that's why I was going with those. But what I actually switched to and tried is the Slinkies, the Ernie Ball Slinkies, because I play a Music Man Stingray 5.
Yeah.
And they are $20 a set for 5-string.
They're like a Swiss Army knife. You can use them for anything.
I'm like, okay. So the set that I have on right now, I noticed when I went even from the boomers to those, it didn't have as much of a punchy, or not a punchy. It was more hollow, but more body. But when I switched to the GHS, or when I switched to the Ball Slinkies, man, they had so much more drivey sound and more punch. And I think they might have even been a tick smaller, like maybe a 135 to a 130 or something of the sort on the low.
Oh, okay.
But I noticed right away after the very first night that I played out of them, that my hands did not hurt nowhere near as bad as they did with all the other different types of strings that I was using.
Yeah, they do live up to their name. They're very bendable compared to a lot of companies where they're, not in a bad way, they're just, some companies make theirs a little more stiff. Now, if there were if they're a thinner string though, like 125 instead of 130, for example, or whatever, then that would pull on your neck less. And if that's pulling on your neck less, then like say you have like the older ones pulling on your neck this much, now you're pushing the string down way more. But with the looser strings on it, now the neck is a little more relaxed and the strings are naturally closer.
See, and this is why it's so important. This is why it's so important that I set my bass guitar up correctly. And
every different string change, especially when you change companies or
okay. See, this is awesome. That's why I'm going to buy these tools that you suggested. I'll definitely.
And I think you're also talking about feeler gauges too.
Oh, feeler gauge. That is the term that I was thinking about. Yeah, I'm so glad you remember that. But I'm super excited because
I'm going to remember stuff from earlier as we go. I'm sure I'll miss things, and then I'll fill in the blanks as we go along.
You're the man. Yeah, so that's why that makes a lot of sense. And when I adjust my guitar down to the proper setup for the Slinkies, that's the setup that I'm going to keep for, I think I'm going to do it for a while. Obviously go through a couple string changes and over the course of the next handful of months and see how I feel about it. But right now, I'm sticking by them. Ernie Ball, the Slinkies. Man, I don't.
Sorry, what bass did you say you have again now?
I got the Music Man, Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray 5.
Okay. Oh, I love that adjustable. I love the Truss Rod Adjustment on Music Mans.
I know the next bass that I get is definitely going to be another Music Man. It's just going to be a much better version of it.
From a tech luthier perspective, they're great too, because all you do is take the little metal thing, turn the wheel. That's it. No
Oh,
going to the headstock, taking screws off, taking the plate, which is, I mean, whatever, no big deal. But it's so nice to just look down. Oh, there's the truss rod adjustment. And you just turn it.
ease of access, basically.
Yeah, it's
You
right
know,
there.
I've
Super
never
easy.
even looked at that bass for how to do the truss rod. Never
Oh
once.
yeah,
And I've been jamming this bass now for like 2 years,
yeah.
dude.
The main thing is to look. I look from the headstock, and I look down from the headstock to the side of the fretboard, and I use the string as a straight edge visually,
Hmm.
and
Well,
then I can kind of see what I'm looking at. I don't. Sometimes I'll do the tick trick where you put your pinky way up here, and then you hold down the first fret and you do this
hmm.
with your first finger, and you get to learn what the click's supposed to sound like. Because if you're holding it down right here and you're holding it down at the first fret, then you could kind of
Oh, I
get
see
an
what you're
idea of what
saying.
it's supposed to sound like, what it's supposed to feel. It's different on a guitar, but
Hmm.
I do that sometimes. But generally, I was trained like Batman Begins style, looking from the headstock,
Hmm.
because I like seeing what the neck is doing too. Because sometimes you have to fudge it, and you can't use a lot. Sometimes the numbers don't always work. That's why I'm such I really do a lot of setups on field, because the numbers don't always work, because I do things for a store.
There's a lot
So
of
we get all
variables.
kinds of guitars in of different quality and different value and things like that. And so I see all kinds. I don't always have like, the professional $3,000 guitars. And I know a lot of guys who just get old, good vintage guitars or high end guitars from, guys who are out touring and things like that. But when you're doing it on more of a retail level, you get all kinds. So the using measurements and things like that don't always account for necks that on guitars that were made, 5 years ago, and they got it off of Amazon, but I still need to make it work
Hmm.
if I can, within reason. Sometimes you just have to say, listen, you're better off just taking a look at what we have in the next room.
Well, I imagine when you have that
So
conversation, it always is
I
like,
want to
"I'm
see it. Oh,
sorry,
it's a,
I'm
I
so
hate it.
sorry,
I feel so
I'm
bad when
so
I do it,
sorry."
especially
It's
when
like
it's like
being
an
it's like
heirloom.
being a cop and telling them, "Hey, I'm sorry." It's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
hmm.
And a lot of times, I tell them like, it's like a family thing, and they're trying to pass it down, and I had to tell them, look, it may have played great back in the day, but time has had its way with it. They weren't made to last this long. Old guitars didn't even have truss rods if you go back far enough, and that neck is a banana forever, unless you want to do like a $600 refret job where I'm planing the top of the fretboard down and making it flat, and it's just going to do it again probably at some point anyway. So I've had to have that conversation. Like, listen, you can still commemorate with it. We can make it look nice, hang it
But
up,
no matter how
like
much you
like
polish a
what you do with your
turd,
kid, and have them, have them have a good shot at keeping with it and have something that's easy to play. Let's go over here, and that's just a matter of just sometimes it's just time to be honest.
usually
And
if
they love
that
it when they at the end of the day it hurts, but they respect you for it. They really do appreciate when you can, because that's that's you turning down money.
because
I could say
you're
yes, I'll
there.
fix anything.
Well, yeah, it's showing you care more about them as a customer
Yeah,
than it
you
does
know,
as a retail.
yeah, yeah. Because I don't make jack on sales. I don't. That's other people that work there have to, they have to make their quota. So I ain't taking, I don't take that from them unless it's a friend who comes in and insists or something like that.
Hmm.
That way it helps them out, and then they help me out later in other ways. So, and then again, they get the warranties and all that stuff. And then, yeah, and it usually, and they just don't know. That's all. Yeah, I want to give this to my granddaughter, and I just want something, and I don't want to spend a lot of money because they're just getting started. But the thing is, if it's hard to play, they're not going to stick with it. They're going to think that, and they may have a hard time starting back up again, because this is what guitar is. This hurts because the strings are like, this high off.
Oh yeah,
And,
a lot of adjustment.
Yeah, and they just don't know. If they don't know, and then that's their only experience with the instrument, they might shy away from keeping with it and coming back to it later or something like that. So, and because I used to teach quite a bit too. And one-on-one, I taught classes and things like that, and I would see, Mr. G, I don't know if the guitar is right for me. I was like, well, why? My fingers hurt, which is expected to some degree, but I would still, well, let me see your guitar for a minute. And I would always have my kit with me and things like that for basic stuff. Here, try it now. And I'd have kids almost quit until I tweaked it because they didn't know.
I had to grab the coffee. Hey, so let me ask you this: what are your thoughts on conditioning a fretboard or the guitar? Is there anything that you like? Is there anything that you suggest to people that want to take better care of their guitars?
Anything, any of the fretboard oils are great. You only use them on ebony and rosewood, the woods, basically the bare woods. Never on gloss. Never on excuse me. Never on, like, say, those Strats that have the gloss fretboards. You just use guitar polish on those. Or the dry maple. You leave the oil. You leave the oil away from that too. So the non-glossed maple fretboards, like a lot of your Fenders and things like that, and the gloss, you don't want to use fretboard oil on, but like your usual rosewood, the common rosewood, ebony, things like that, then yeah, you definitely. I do it every time I do a string change. I clean it up, use Quad Zero steel wool, clean up the fretboard, and then I come in with the oil. And it doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs to be applied. You just have to go over it with I have an oil rag that's usually a decommissioned polish rag, because they start their life as a polish rag with nothing on them.
But after a while of use, it's kind of like a rag in the garage. First you use it for these type of projects. That makes sense.
Right. This is for the nice car where I'm just buffing her up and I don't have to worry about it. Oh, but over time it gets dirty and now I don't trust it anymore. And those microfiber cloths are great, but it'll grab anything, including the steel wool that I just mentioned. So you have places.
That makes sense.
That's a great way to. That works great with black finishes. I'll tell you. I'm kidding. Never.
I say like a scratch in the car. Yeah, perfect.
Oh yeah.
Only if you want to. Only if you want to make it. Only if you want to make it unique, right?
Oh yeah. Steel wool.
Adds character to it. Just adds character.
I have a separate bench for steel wool. I have a completely separate bench for fretboard clean. If it's a neck that it's bolt on, I take the neck right off and I get the body out of. If it's a really dirty fretboard, like it's like all kinds of finger cheese and things like that, that way I can really go to town and not worry about getting the fibers all over the place and having to cover up the pickups with low tack tape and things like that.
Man, I get so involved for people don't realize, people that don't get into the maintenance and things like that. I know there's so much involved, and I know that all the videos that I watch online of different, people that are more, I would say more professional or more, they take a lot of pride in their guitar, whether they fix it or set it up themselves, or they take them to a guy like all the time, like it. I guess that's another step in the right direction of taking it more serious, and it's like finding your
thing is having a network, because there's a lot of things that I know from doing on my own guitars, and there's a lot of things that I know from other techs, like, hey guys, watch out for this. Oh, okay, thanks. But yeah, fretboard oil, the Dunlop one's fine. It's the big yellow bottle. That's fine. I love F1 oil from Music Nomad. That you can actually put on dry maple, bare maple. And then PRS is my favorite fretboard oil though. It smells awesome.
I mean, if you gotta smell it, then you want it to smell good. Does the smell stay on there for a little bit, and then every time you're like, look, I'm playing, and it smells like roses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dunlop also has the blue bottle guitar polish, and I call that guitar perfume because it smells so damn good. And it's the 65. It's the blue bottle. Yeah. I use that, and if they have a nice sealed case, like PRSs can be bombed from orbit, and the case will survive. They have like the hardiest cases I've ever seen. They're super heavy. You just pick it up and you, like I said, you can have a comet come in, hit your house, everything's on fire,
and it's still gonna hold up.
PRS is fine. It's fine. But yeah, and then you open that case, and you're like, oh, it smells super good. Their polish is really good too. Usually it's a kit. They have the cleaner and the polish, and then the fretboard conditioner. The main thing that people kind of mess up a little bit with is that they'll use the guitar polish as a cleaner too. It says cleaner on the bottle next to polish usually, but you really want to clean it up and get the gunk off first. If it's something that it's been, like you were, like say you were in a band in like 2002, and then you had kids, and then you stopped playing in bands, and then now it's time to get the band back together. So you get the case that has like the Vans sticker,
yeah.
And there she is.
And Slipknot, and
burn from the No Fear, and Calvin
Slayer always
Chevy, Calvin pissing on a Chevy logo. And it's time to get that out again. You want to clean it first. So I usually use naphtha for that.
Naphtha?
And of course, I should say that you should use gloves, but nobody does.
It's called naphtha?
Naphtha, yeah.
Naphtha.
Lighter fluid.
Oh. You just use lighter fluid to clean it?
Basically, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but if you get it in lighter fluid form, it's more expensive. You just go to Lowe's and get like the metal tin of it. It's cheaper.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. See? Learning something new.
Yeah. I got a gallon of linseed oil that I use for fretboard oil too, that someone just gave me. Like, I don't want this. You gonna use it? Like, yeah, it's fretboard oil. It says linseed oil. Yeah, it's fretboard oil. Really good fretboard oil.
And you got
another good fretboard oil is linseed oil.
Dun, da, da, da. Linseed oil.
Stuff as I go.
Dude, that's awesome. So the reason why I've been asking so many questions about my action and intonation and all that stuff is, again, I haven't had it set up in over a year and a half now. I'd say over a year and a half. Oh yeah, for sure. Probably 2 years ago.
You'll know.
Between
it's
that,
so gradual. Then you do it. You're like, what have I been doing with my life?
Yes, and the problem that I ran into where I noticed that I needed to make adjustments on my guitar was my low string, my B. Whenever I tune it up, and I tune everything up, and I'm playing it, I know for a fact that note is out. I've checked the action, the intonation a little bit to try and get it butted in, because usually that's all I've as a novice, it's just like, okay, well, if you play the open string, make it right, and then you play it on 12, and you can line it up with the arrows on your chromatic tuner or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I've done that, and when I do it, it's still off. So I'm
holding it in playing position when you're checking it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Because I tried to I realized there might be a different angle, so I was trying to put myself in that, and that's where I tuned it and did everything out of. But it's out. It just a little tiny bit, and I don't know if it's because it's a B string, or because of maybe I have, another rabbit hole.
The B string can be tough.
Yeah. Well, a problem that I've had with my Music Man, again, I'm a novice at a lot of these things, so I have 3 knobs: volume, and then like mids, and it's mids, and then it has an EQ boost or something. So before, when I first got my guitar, the first year I played on, maybe a year and a half almost, I would play it with my volume knob all the way up. I would have my other 2 all the way up as well. Okay.
Okay.
So then everything I would do, I would base off of that pure power, that pure sound. My guitar is maxed, and then when I plug it into the board or I plug it into my amp at the time, amp Egg SVT4 Pro, it would always, that's how I would do it. Now, after a couple of years of really taking my sound more serious, the last 3 years, so I went that for like a year and a half, and then I went half a year where I would have my volume all the way up, and I would have my mid draw to the middle, to the where you feel it click in, and then I had my EQ boost or whatever the hell it is would be at that little spot as well. So in the last few weeks, now I have it with my volume all the way up. I have my mids thing set to middle, and then I have my other one all the way off. So it doesn't boost anything, because I'm trying to really dial in my sound. And I'm wondering if maybe that had part to do with when I would play it and it would sound out because it was boosting it that much more. Maybe that would coincide with it. I haven't thought about it until now.
Note, though.
Okay, see, I haven't tried it since I backed off everything.
Really? Okay.
But I'll let you know the next time I
Yeah.
the next time I get the board under my hands. I'll definitely let you know if I notice it or not. But either way,
where the notes sounding wrong? When does it start to sound like it's not in tune?
all right. So this is not my Stingray, but you see this bass here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can read it.
Yeah.
All right. Can you read it? Is it written backwards or is it right?
No, I can see it. Yeah.
To my best friend
Jamie.
Ralph Chamberlain.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They said when they
How much I absolutely love those guys is a whole other conversation.
when they said he had a week to live, we were over there talking with them, and I said, hey, I brought my guitar. I says, you feel up to signing it? I can lay it across to you or whatever. He said it'd be an honor. So I handed him my guitar, and he signed it for me. And so this bass right here, this is my Long Black Johnson. So
yeah, when I first read the Ralph Chamberlain thing, I thought Junior signed it, and then I put two and two together, and that's heavy. That's awesome.
This bass, Dan Donch gave it to me because somebody gave it to him as because he
Who made it? What is it?
It's a Johnson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's my Long Black Johnson is what he called it. He said, Jamie, I got you a bass, man.
I will bet you anything that they bought that over at Music Round when it was in the plaza.
Yeah, that's funny.
I guarantee it. That's where they had those.
So here's my Long Black Johnson, and I got the
No, the cat
signature,
had it.
and I got the signature on it that matters a lot.
That's awesome.
But to answer your question, so we play our song "Life Today."
Nope. Don't do anything with that, by the way.
What's that?
With the marker, be careful with that. Like some people try to preserve those things.
Yeah.
Anything you do could ruin it. Like some people try to shoot clear lacquer over it and stuff. It just eats it up.
Just leave it natural.
Yeah, or at least try to get another pick guard.
And put on top of it or something. Or
just kind of just swap it out.
Well, yeah.
Still have it.
Oh
Some
yeah.
people will
Oh
take-
yeah. You're saying just take it off for the memorabilia of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's where you're playing.
Well, that's very true, and I guess that's why I should probably do that. Now, thank you. That's a great suggestion.
I've had people to ask me to do that all the time. I was like, I'm going to destroy this signature if I try anything.
So I'll just have to find another one. I think I looked one time before it when I was gonna when we were gonna paint the guitar. But
Maybe
yes,
you can get a Fender one to fit on there, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't line up. They do little things just to be dicks.
I know
screw holes don't go. But anyway,
I noticed the off notes on the B when I play a. Let's see here.
so you're down there.
It's easier on the 5-string. So I noticed it.
So it's way up in the notes. Okay.
So I noticed it definitely on 13, and I notice it when I'm on the. Let's see here. So that's a B, A, G. So I noticed it on the G. on the lowest string. So up at the 8th fret, the G or whatever it is. Yeah, because B, A, G. So I noticed it there. So that's why when I noticed it, because when we were recording our one song called I think it was when we were recording Live Today. I noticed it because it would just not, when I'd hit the note, it just would have that little vibration. It was not right.
How old are the strings?
Well, they were brand new. I've switched to the Slinky. That's why I'm saying that's what the first moment I was like, well, I did have different strings on here, different styles, and a different sound coming out. So now maybe it's time I reset it all up.
It's probably just do for a full setup and just do and then when you get the intonation, now make sure that when you play the note the way you naturally would. Get in the moment. Okay, that's how I play that note. That's how hard I press.
Oh, okay.
2.8 pounds of
like kind of like testing them. Like you got to give it everything you got at that moment.
Right.
How you would do. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Be as natural as you can about it. Because sometimes you'll it's hard to explain, but sometimes I call it setup syndrome, where you're so afraid of it not sounding right that you make it sound wrong. Like if you're afraid of it buzzing, you kind of make it buzz.
Just so you have something to focus on.
Just to get it. Yeah. And
setting yourself up for failure. Yeah.
I had to tell people, do you really play like that?
Dude, I didn't even know that's a thing. That's funny.
It's so easy to insult people. I try to watch it. Come here, sit down, have a seat. You're at home. You're in your bedroom. Now play. Wow, it's not buzzing.
Well, there you go.
Here.
That makes sense.
I try to. That's one of the all the tricks in the world. How to talk to people is the best technique in patience. And knowing when to say no. That was probably the first thing. Is if you don't have the right tool, don't try it. This hex wrench isn't fitting. Well, then it's probably metric. And
you probably shouldn't.
Go to Harbor Break.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't mess up your stuff.
Otherwise you're going to round stuff out and strip stuff and all that kind of thing. Not that I wouldn't know or anything.
Yeah, with all that, I mean, we're all allowed to make a mistake a year. Just one. Now
that's the annoying thing is there's that air of perfection that you're supposed to have where
well, you have such high expectations of yourself.
I beat the shit out of myself.
Oh, don't we all? And then the times
I can't get it.
Then the times you're like, oh man, I need to chill, and it's like, but I got so much to do.
Yeah, there's times where you got to walk away. You got to walk away because you want to knock that guitar out of the park. You want to nail it, get it good. The guy you're doing it for is a nice person. You just, especially fret work. Sometimes you just really gotta. Okay, these frets aren't seating right. I know how to do it right. I just need to get away from it for a minute and go for a quick walk around the block and come back and things like that. It's just knowing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because if not, you'll definitely make decisions based on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because emotion, that makes sense. Emotion could weigh a big role on setting up your guitar. How you're feeling, that makes sense.
I'm serious about it. I'm really, anytime that I haven't hit it, or if I'm not a natural at it on first go, I'm merciless on myself. It'll actually make me shy away from trying it again for another year if I'm not careful.
Just because you ain't got no time for that.
Oh, I'll self-traumatize myself. I'll just oh God, I remember how I felt when I tried that last time. No. And it probably played into why I didn't do frets for the longest time, because I was afraid of doing something awful the first time I did it. But I mean, it's another old adage is to practice on shit.
Well, it's just like anything. Even people go through those type of feelings whenever they're trying to learn to play a scale, or they're trying to play a chord or a groove or whatever. Those are the moments that define you as a whatever role you're trying to play. If you're trying to play the role of a guitar player, then when you get to those notes that really kick your ass, those are the notes where you say, you know what, I'm going to practice it and I'm going to just do it, and I'm just going to grind on it until I get it right. I'm not going to let it defeat me, because And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we've all done that, like you said. So you just got to be level-headed, even on even on
can
playing.
Traumatize yourself by how you react to that moment. If you lose your temper and do something stupid or something like that.
Well, like when you're practicing and you're like, well, I'm going to miss this note. It's the same thing as that somebody.
Yourself out.
Yeah, psyching yourself out. So if it was about playing, what would you call it then? Self what? Self psych out. Gotta give it a name. Because we're
Self-sabotage, I guess.
Self-sabotage. Yeah, true that. We've all been there and done that.
Yeah. Anytime I think to myself, I'm gonna screw this solo up, I do it.
Oh, absolutely. Is that Murphy's Law? Anything that's going to go wrong will go wrong. Yeah. You just got to let yourself just kind of go. I've been doing that a lot lately. Whenever I go to set up my guitar, I know you said the intonation would be the last step. Should I do the truss rod adjustment first if it needs it? And then
bring it to tune. Bring it up to tune. All up to pitch, wherever you want it, and then set the neck to that. Yeah.
Okay. And then do the intonation or the action, and then the action, and then the intonation.
Then the action at the saddles. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
Then intonation.
I am going to do this, and I'm going to. You watch. You're going to be proud of me. And then I'm going to show everybody on this podcast and be like, "Look, this is the follow up of me doing exactly what Lucien, who is very knowledgeable and smart and helpful, and such a great role model for any musician out there. Heed his advice. Trust me, it's always paid off. So with your playing. You've dug in more than a lot of people. When did you really know that you were really taking it to a different place? Were you working on scales? Were you working on grooves? Or like, think back to that time. Because everybody starts out and they learn to play a couple of little easy, riffs, and they play it over and over and over. We can name off 100 million of them. Everybody's going to be like, well, it's this song, or this is the one that everyone learns. Well, that's great. Everybody learns them. Yeah. The moral is,
or the songs you learn because people are asking you if you know how to play it like every 20 minutes.
When you get to a point where you're playing and you're like, okay, well, I know that I really am going to start to dive in here. Did you find it was more technique? Did you find it was just more scale? Scales,
yeah.
For sure, scales.
I remember I was shying away from theory because I was afraid it was going to take away from my creativity from it.
So in theory, it'd be take it away from Lucien Gaydos.
Things like that. Yeah. Like if I know scales, then I'll just I'll sound like everybody else, and I'll have a formula and things like that. Until it dawns on you that you have to learn the rules before you break them. That was my thing was that, and then I discovered Rhodes, and after I discovered Rhodes, Randy Rhodes, that was like, okay, here he is doing this completely other thing at the time that, like Blizzard of Oz came out and Diary and all that. He's classically trained. I mean, you want to just talk like, okay, he knows scales. I mean, this guy is classically trained. Like we're talking major scalar knowledge. And I'm like, okay, wait, he knew how to make it his own, even though he knew the roadmaps. Okay, I can do this. That happened when I was like 18 or so. And that's when my thing, and I've always been like this in other facets of my life, is anytime I always try to take the other road. Even if the main road that everyone's taking makes sense, just for the sake of it, I'd take the other road. So I didn't feel like learning pentatonic scales. I wanted all the versions of minor. I wanted Hungarian minor. I wanted natural minor. I wanted harmonic minor. I wanted to figure out what the chords were for those scales and all that kind of thing. So then I got into like books like the Guitar Grimoire and things like that, which was stuff that I was super into because it's evil looking. The guy with with the robe and the fake flames and stuff like that next to him, and he's talking about the scales and all this stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen the DVDs that come with those books. or that you can download or whatever, they're a trip. But it actually does just explain the content very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
As corny as it is, unless you're younger, like
It's got the gimmick, you know.
Yeah, my stepdad's wondering if I'm like joining a cult or something like that. I was like, no, it's just scales. Check it out. Okay. And the grimoire was cool because I wasn't into reading sheet music. I still wasn't into reading sheet music. So what the cool thing about the grimoire was that it actually has everything written out in like with little squares, and it showed the intervals that way, or the entire scale from top to bottom. That's where I can go. Great. And then I got all those books were super, super handy. Like that really helped me do different stuff. The tough part was shoehorning it into open jams and things like that. Like, what the hell scale is this guy playing? So that might be one of the reasons why I wasn't in a band every 5 minutes. That was always my thing. I was always a weird guitar player. So it wasn't like I was, all the guys that were players were already in Donch's band.
Because Donch is the man.
Like, you guys are the only ones doing anything. There's no one else. Damn. When you were in high school and you got that little circle of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just showed up and played solos while they set up. That's all.
Dude. But
I don't have a band, so I guess I'll just show up and play.
So he just takes it to the next level.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
that's all
man.
I could do. So they invited me to do that with them. Like, hey, you don't have a band, but do you want to like solo for 5 minutes?
You're like, yeah. Sure do.
Get my gear shred for 5 minutes while they're switching bands at the fire hall.
So when you were learning scales, you said you were learning a bunch of minors and things, and that led you to wanting to learn the pentatonics, and that's where it all changed? Or
it made me. Well, the pentatonics were the scales that everyone seemed to be using.
And that was the common road.
Away from it,
right? Because
I liked using the scales with as many different notes in it, because then it was more bullets for my magazine. All eight notes instead of all 7 notes instead of 5, or whatever, and that way I can fire more off and I won't blow my wad as quickly.
And if I do, it's gonna be coming out at 36 at a time. Like,
well, better change octaves. This is getting boring. Shit.
Yeah, a Gaydos geyser. It's all these notes. Yes.
Hooster said that to me one time after we got done playing a Sarson show over at Crooked Eye. He just walks up to me. He's like, "Man, you're gonna run out of notes."
You're like, "There's never
run out of notes, man." Like, I'll just do them again. I don't care.
You started all over.
And that was always the thing too. Is I knew chords, and I like doing weird chords. I like figuring out the chords that weren't just power chords that still sounded good distorted. And there were a lot of really good lessons online. Where, I mean, you remember back when you would download tablature back in the day, and it was just text.
Yep. 0, 0, 0, 2, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Oh, yeah.
And that's how we learned. And the thing is,
that's how we learned. We didn't have the YouTube.
We didn't have rhythm at the time. We don't. It wasn't. This was back in our day. We didn't have, like like on ultimateguitar.com, where it has the track for the guitar, and there's all the tablature, but then there's drums, and so you have a rhythm. You didn't have the rhythm back then.
No,
you just had
a document.
Text. And you better hope that the guy who wrote it did it right. And that was another thing that helped you, because if there's a mistake made, it trained you to kind of, okay, this might be wrong in some places. Hell, Guitar World did it. Like, you'd go through a tablature in a magazine and you'd, wait, that is not right. I'm getting a pen out and I'm correcting the guy who wrote this article in this magazine.
You're like, there's that note. That note is incorrect.
Yeah, I would know for sure. I would bet money on it. I would go through like one of the solos on like an Eric Johnson song that was on in Guitar World. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that's the note. No, it's a 5. And I did that all the time. Like, I was probably wrong sometimes too, but it still helped you. You were on the lookout for it. It trained you. Rhythm, same thing. So you had to have the CD, and I had a CD player with AB repeat on it, so you can actually repeat parts of songs. which was super handy. This was in like 98. And I just happened to, and it was just like it was just your run of the mill consumer grade Panasonic CD player, but it had that feature on it.
The A to B, yeah, man.
Yeah, only people like us would use that.
Yeah, because most people had no idea what the hell it was for.
Why would I want to hear one part of a song all day unless I play guitar?
Yeah,
and I'm learning, or bass or whatever, and I'm learning.
It's so crazy the technology they have nowadays. Now they can slow it down. They can.
Yeah. I remember that was a big deal. Like the Tascam with the CD player in it, it would actually let you do that. It would actually let you slow the pitch down. I mean, slow the song down and keep the pitch.
Oh yeah.
As a device.
Oh yeah, the Tascam. I remember.
You could do with your, God damn it, you could do it with your phone now.
Yeah, now you can do that shit with your phone. That's what's crazy. And you're like, it makes you look back at all that. Because you had to put in the time if you wanted to get better at it. It wasn't convenient. It was convenient for us. It was convenient, but it wasn't convenient at all.
It was great.
But
otherwise, you were waiting for it to show up in a magazine. And I mean, I was listening to weird shit, power metal from Finland, that you have to spend like $30 on the CD at Media Play in the import section,
just to get it to be able to enjoy it. And most people have no idea what it was or what it was about or nothing.
Try playing covers with that.
Well,
what the hell is this?
But I'll tell you what.
Who are you playing?
I'll tell you what, man. I remember watching you play, and I was like, man, this dude how the hell does he put all them notes in that area without losing the groove? Because I think the groove is obviously the groove is what holds you to it. You find that repetition, that pattern, or
we hate to admit it, but that really is key. Yeah.
And you learn to put so many different notes in. Me as a bass player or a self-proclaimed, bass player, I'm finding with my skills and things, I'm going. So let's say the song's in a key of A. I can't figure out, even though I know in theory how to do the C major shape or the Ion, the Dorian, any of them shapes. I've learned all them. Mm-hmm. I can't do them like just. I got to think about it. I go like, okay, it's the F, and then I got to just play the F scale up from the A or whatever the note is. But I'm having a hard time trying to find my notes while I'm I'm holding the key. I can't find where to go, and I don't know why I struggle with it. And I know maybe it sounds like I should get more familiar with the pentatonic. I know like 1-4, 1-3, 1-3. The pattern, sure. But
there's scales with more notes in them.
Well, true that.
Have you fucked with passing tones and neighbor notes and shit?
That's the first time I've ever heard that terminology ever.
It's where you use a wrong note, but it's so fast that it takes you to the next right note. Basically. Real fast. Real fast.
So it's kind of like doing a half.
It's good with, yeah.
Well,
you can't just throw it around everywhere, but you'll know. It's one of those things where you're just trying to. I mean, I would get like some. Maybe find like YouTube.
YouTube's got so many backing tracks in whatever key you want, whatever tuning you want.
Yeah.
That's
not helpful. I gotta remind myself to start using those more. I gotta remember to play these days. Really, honestly, like I have. By the time I get out of work and then I repair all day, which is great. I'll never change. I'll never trade that for anything. But to go from that to playing, I have to switch gears. I really have to put myself in a different mindset. Otherwise, I'll just pick a guitar up and just. I wonder if this can be better. Stop.
Yes, that's right. Just to shut up and play it, right? I get you. Yeah, dude, that makes sense. Because again, you work on guitars, so that's what's going to go through your mind. Me and my buddy Mikey was talking about it, and he said the analogy that he said that a lot of people does, and the way he described it was great. He said it's like people are pointing, and rather than they're so focused on the finger, and they're not taking in everything else around it. Or it's completely opposite. They're either seeing everything and not focusing on the one thing that they need to for the direction. So it's finding that balance.
There's a time and place.
Every time we're talking, it always makes sense. We're always just like, yep, just like, just don't forget about the finger, because sometimes you got to see the broader thing.
Right.
Backing tracks, that is probably a great idea for me to venture more into to figure it out. How are you going to know if you don't try or you don't do it?
Right. Give yourself a place to screw up. Yeah.
I've been working on learning. Well, I said on my last, I think I was talking about with Jimmy on the last one, but a song that's been really actually motivated me a lot these last few weeks was "Born to Boogie" by Hank Williams Jr.
Okay, yeah.
It starts out, does this thing, and then it's like I think it's like an A to a C to an E or something really quick. I can't remember without being under the board, but when it kicks in, it does this walk where it's like open 4-2-4-2, whatever. I could go into the notes if I sat down and described it. But the way that it does it is it does it very similar to like the 12-bar blues. So when they go up and then they go down a string, play it a few times, come back up a string, they play it a few times, then they go down two strings or do two strings and over 2 frets. Walk it back down 2 frets and then bring it back to home, like a typical 12-bar blues. Sure. But they're adding these notes in between it, and it's so groovy, and that's what makes that song so much fun to learn, because it's keeping it simple. It's keeping it in that boundary of what you can do in that particular groove in that song, but you're still throwing in a whole bunch, like Randy Rhoads, how you said that he was able to keep it together. Go over here, but stay in the boundary of the actual, still in the rink. And that song, Born to Boogie, for me on a bass guitar has really encouraged me to do that, because I'll take those same 4 notes, but now instead of me playing a dun 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 dun, in quarters, or like dun ga 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 dun, now I'm playing them more gracefully than and you can turn that into a shuffle, or you can turn that into a blues groove.
Slide into the note instead.
And I'm finding
dynamics.
I'm like, oh my goodness, man! I'm like, oh goodness, I found my groove. Mm-hmm. It's like that's why I haven't done a cast in like the last 2-3 weeks, because I get so hyperactive about me just playing these grooves. But now I needed to do those grooves in key with a backing track. So I think that is going to be the key of my practice this coming up week. I was focused on learning that song, and I've learned most of it. There's a part in the middle that I haven't dialed in yet, because I'll get there and then I'll be so damn close and I'll get pissed off, and then I got to walk away.
Right.
And my walking away sometimes is a day, sometimes it's a minute.
Whatever it's got to be. Yeah.
That song is a middle finger.
You can't rush that.
It's a middle finger to me. But I know I'm going to overcome that song. I could do it in a night if I did it. But I want to keep it. But I want to keep it happy. I want to keep me learning it rewarding. So I'll go to another song. So another song I've been going from there to is Play That Funky Music, because the way it kicks out, it's like e dun 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 dun. Well, everybody knows that, but if you listen to the bass groove, it's completely different. It's bow dun 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 dun.
It may sound like you're just playing some normie stuff,
but
you're really not.
But you're not. You're playing half of what they're playing,
right?
On the guitar.
Like, you know better than I do that sometimes it's time to grind. Like when you're gaming, sometimes you gotta go and grind, and then sometimes you gotta just go back and play a mission you've played a bunch of times before, because damn, that stage is fun as hell. Yeah,
but you were so focused on just beating it that you didn't take in the.
You're not having fun.
Yeah, and like so that's what gets you.
Go do a mission or something like that you just love playing, and then you can, then the grinding isn't as bad when you go back to it.
Yeah, because you
all the time. Like I'll try to write or something like that's my biggest thing is creating my own stuff and things like that, because back to beating yourself up. I'm sitting on a lot of stuff, but a lot of it's unfinished because you just burn out on it.
Well, and again, everything you're doing, it's very complex.
Grind, and sometimes it's time to, go play along with some Iron Maiden tunes for a while and have fun with it, and then come back fresh.
Yep, because like the things that you're making are really intricate, and there's a lot going on to it. More than a lot of people explain, as the pop 40 stuff, where there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on musically. But now the stuff that you write is a lot more complex than a pop 40 thing. But that's what makes it so beautiful, is because it's so complex that when you look at it, you're just in amazement that it all somehow works together. And that's everything that I've ever heard that you've written on the guitar. It always blows my mind just because you do so much.
Thank you.
If somebody were to want to check out any of the,
I want to be memorable. Yeah, that's the main thing. I don't like to. I spraying and praying is fun, but I still want it to be something, something that you might remember or something like that, or there at least have moments from there where you're remembering, but there's still something around there where it gives me some room to wank for a while, and then I come back and do I can't blow this part off because that's a cool riff that is on the recording, or something like that. So you kind of give yourself some leeway. But anyway,
and I'm sure whenever people hit the studio, you're always going through that mind game of, you're like, oh gosh, I cannot mess this up. I cannot mess this up.
I'm awful in the studio, especially when there's money involved.
Oh yes,
I do better on stage than I do in the studio.
Yeah, I
think the only way to practice that is just to record. You're not with any intention to make something, just hit record and play.
To be able to hear yourself back.
It puts you there. It really does. And then you can, then you're practicing recording, and it's a completely other, that's a completely other muscle. I know that I don't work very much because I'm not in the studio all the time anymore these days. At the moment.
At the moment.
I try to leave that door open. But so if you just open your DAW, hit the record button, and try to record something, it really works that mindset muscle of you being in that. Then when you go into the studio or have everyone over somewhere to record, it's not as, it's like the other trick where I tell, like when I had students that were younger or something like that, or still, I have a certain age range. You have stuffed animals still, right? This sounds stupid, but get your stuffed animals out and play for them. The ones that had issues with stage fright, like, hey, we have a recital next week, because I used to teach at like boys and girls clubs and things like that too. So I had youngins also. And
you had to learn different ways to teach those fundamentals to it.
Like, and they're like, I'm afraid to go on stage. Well, get your favorite stuffed animal out and play for them. Same idea.
Give them a show.
It's just the adult version of it.
Well, that's why a lot of people, that's like dancers and things like that, they dance in front of a mirror or anything like that.
It puts you in that spot. Yeah, or play it for a buddy or something like that. The main thing these days is that we're all so isolated right now.
Well, it definitely makes the vibes of the natural energy of playing with other people a lot harder. I know, like when we have band practice, I was playing in the band Crowfeather, and every practice was like a show. We would get there at the time, we would practice to stage lights, and everything would be level. We taped everything off, all the instruments and everything were all taped off the exact same way. So every time we practiced or every time we played shows, it was always going to be the same, and the same volume over months of dialing it in. So in my studio, whenever we practice, I try to do something very similar to that. I try to kill the lights, try to use more stage lights. So then that way when we're playing shows, that it's not more of a, oh my gosh, now I have to depend on this little colored light on the floor. Or if I'm looking over here, like some places, when you're practicing as a band, you can practice with your drummer on one side and everybody's staring at the drummer, or other times you could have
that's like playing with your tongue out.
Right, everybody's in the mode and they're all together. But then for better practice, it's better to turn away from the drummer, because then you're playing and you're not depending on the cues from looking at each other. It's the thing.
Right.
It's a whole different body language. It's a whole different stage language, if you will. Which I've never thought of it that way, but a stage language is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
You guys heard
I
it here
used to-
first.
I used to put myself in mental places like that, not for like preparation, but it would make me come up with new stuff if I fucked with mood lighting mill. I would make, when I was younger, it probably wouldn't hurt to do this now. It sounds freaking cool actually, because I almost forgot about it. Or at least it's been in the back of my head. I used to make my bedroom look like Spencer's in the back. And I would play to like black lights up, and I would just come up with the weirdest shit. We're talking like slow, airy, 50 pounds of delay type of stuff. Not super distorted, just real moody. And I'd get the different colored light bulbs, the green ones, the red ones.
Really set the
Put 'em on,
tone.
turn it on, and
Oh,
that would be
absolutely.
the only light on. And I would just play. And it makes you just do different shit. Just like a different guitar neck makes you do different stuff. A lot of people don't like the thick baseball bat necks, the older style, but it makes you do different things. It's not a shred neck. It's something else. It's more, it might make you groove more. It might make you play bluesier or something like that. But anyway, I used to do that. I actually used to do that. Is the different lights and stuff, just by myself. Because I was a loner, dog, a rebel.
That's right. I got
That was the
lights.
price to pay to being a weird player, playing different weird shit.
Yeah, but
'Cause I didn't know
you're
how
the
to do
guy
that. 'Cause I
that
didn't like playing covers either.
but you're the guy that knows how to fix the guitars. You're the guy that knows how to put all the musicality where a lot of people that are not so technical, where it's not so complex. Because you've grinded and you've earned it, but at the same time you also are passionate so much that you like to teach people how to do it and show them how to do it.
Oh, I love
If somebody
teaching people, yeah.
because a guy like
not
you or
much I
me,
can do.
I'm not
There's
selfish,
some-
by
There's
any
some
means,
stuff I was sworn to secrecy on.
because there's things in that business that you have to.
Yeah, just
But-
out of respect, because they're like, listen, I'm going to tell you something I've been doing for 20 years, 30 years, or whatever. Keep this one under your hat. Here's how you do this.
I mean, you're like,
Oh my God, it's
you're
so
like,
simple. It's right there.
you're like, it makes so
There's a
much
lot of
sense.
There's a
See,
lot
I
of-
feel,
can't-
I feel with me, that's how I
How are
feel.
your setups done so fast? I could do a setup in usually half an hour, 20 minutes.
Jeez, that is pretty impressive.
But for those reasons.
Because you've learned the shortcuts and the actual ways to get there to make the
Right.
path clear.
Shortcuts without sacrificing. Yeah.
If someone out there wanted to hear an example of some of your guitar playing, do you have some videos up or on SoundCloud or YouTube or anything like that? People would be able to listen.
Anywhere, like the easiest stuff to find right now is the Sarsen stuff.
And that's spelled SARSEN.
Yeah, and that's everywhere. That's the album we did about 7 years ago, or something like that. That's the most readily available. That's the stuff that's on it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes. It got distrocated everywhere.
Yeah, okay, distros.
That's the easiest stuff to find. My own stuff that's a lot weirder or where I'm just caffeinated beyond all belief and I don't care about anything and I'm just firing away. Those are out there too, but that would be I think I have some of those on my YouTube channel yet. I've been in such in the repair end of things that I can't even remember the last time I posted a video of me playing.
I know I haven't seen one in a long time.
Because I've been focusing on it. I've just been focusing on repairs.
Oh, yep. Well, that makes sense. I mean, when
It's just COVID. Not doing it. I was in IT for almost 10 years because that's all I could. I couldn't do guitar repairs in Erie. Not really.
and then COVID came, and it's
not
making
as a career, not as having a car that's made in the past 4 years and have it. You know what I mean? Paying for an apartment, just doing that.
sure.
Keeping my bills caught up. and everything, and having some financial leeway and things like that, without going crazy working at an IT, somewhere. I was like, that's one of the reasons I had to jet, was like, I got to do my thing. Either I'm going to teach or I'm going to repair, or, and it ended up turning into something where I'm actually taking care of things pretty well now.
That's awesome.
But I feel like I had to catch up though. So there's some pressure involved, because I spent a lot of time not doing it. Now here I am, 41, and okay, what else do I need to know? But you can't rush that either. You can't be so eager beaver about it that you're not taking the time to, so what I do is I find out how to do it from like 5 different people before I go dive in, because the stuff I'm learning now, you have to do it right. If you don't do it right, it's costly. It's bad. It's super bad. It's like do or die stuff. So like we're talking like finish repairs on vintage instruments. I've started doing neck resets on old acoustics that have dovetail joints. And that's like the equivalent of a transmission rebuild. Like you're removing an acoustic neck and putting it back on with the right angle from years of the neck being pulled up from the strings. And the truss rod won't do it, because the truss rod doesn't adjust this. It just adjusts that, right? So you have to do this and take it off, correct it, do some geometrics. I have to do math.
To get the right angles and stuff, the arches and stuff. That makes sense.
It's not tough. I mean,
once you understand
so many variables, it just comes from doing it.
The repetition. Well, hard work always pays off.
I have someone teaching me how to do that stuff. I actually have, a couple, like I said, the main thing is that you're not an island, and no matter how far along you do it, you always want to be able to reach out and say, hey, how do you do this? Because it's such a high stakes repair on some of these things. How do you guys do this? Oh, I do it like this and this and this, and you get some input before you go diving into something like that. So, it's just super important to have, to actually have a network of folks. So I actually have somebody who's taking me along that route. The easiest are the newer Martins with the M&T style neck joints. Those, and the one I have here, my triple O, I did that repair on that one. Like, if you can do a repair on your own stuff or on crap first, that's the best. Just like anything else, that's the key. Is if that way, if you screw something up, it's yours. It's your own instrument you screwed up, which is awful, but not half as awful as doing it to somebody else.
To somebody else's guitar.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Or you go to a garage sale and pick up some crappers. But the way to really practice doing a neck reset is you gotta find the older ones that have like the dovetail style joints, like the old Martins, so that you can say, yes, I can fix your 1950 something Martin D18, confidently. That's the key. Is like if you that's actually one of my personal litmuses, is that if I hesitate when someone asks me if I can do something, I say no. Because you can't.
Confidence is bliss.
You got to be ready to refer people if you can't do it. And I know I know Gandalf's out this way that I'm like, listen, I'm not ready for this one yet. You want to talk to him, but stay in touch. I can do it someday, but not yet. And they love you for it. They totally love you for it, though, because they know that you're not going to try to take chances on their instrument. But there comes to be that phase too where you are ready, but it's early on. So you can say, I can do it. I know I can do it. It might take me a little longer, but it will be done.
But I will do it.
And I'm going to give you a deal on it. Not, then you'll give them a discount, because you can do it, but you're still getting your XP up though for it. There's that weird middle area. And then I tell people I have guidance that I can get anytime too. Like, I'll have someone walk me through the entire process while I'm doing it, just in case there's any surprises.
Now, have you had that type of help with learning to play music? Did you go take lessons and things like that, and have someone teach you a lot of the things, or were you mostly self-taught?
That's mostly self-taught. Every now and again, though, I'd reach out to my stepdad um, for the stuff that was very, um, stuff that's very fundamental. He's very good with. He's very good at showing me how to do that stuff when I was working on it, like how to finger a chord properly when I was playing blues. When I started getting into metal and heavier rock and faster playing and things like that, there were still a lot of things which wasn't so much his area, but he would still say, "Hey, make sure your hand is more like this because you don't want to hurt yourself." Stuff like that. A lot of it came from having someone living with me, but I kind of took it. I kind of took it and ran fairly early. But then I had, let's see, it was books. I had about 4 lessons with a teacher at Edinburgh when I was in high school. I did go to Borough for a semester. It just wasn't, the timing in my life just wasn't right for that. If I had gone to when I was like 18 or something like that, and I didn't have bills and all this other stuff, and I don't know how people do it, where they'll go to college full time and then work full time and then like raise like 20 kids or something. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. I value sleep too much. I have no idea how they do it without like turning into a speed freak. It's amazing. I'm actually blown away by people who can do that. So I went for a semester, but I got so much out of it, though. Way so much out of it. There's my dad, too, which, as Ralph would say, it's just in the blood. And like I said, I spent 12 years not knowing my biological dad, who lived in New York, who I mentioned earlier, and he's more of a field player, too, and that's kind of how I am too. And so when him and I actually played for the first time together, it was like milk and cereal. He knew the scales that I knew, my weird scales. He's like, now if you tune your guitar like this, you can do this. I'm like, oh my God. We'd look at each other playing classical.
Like, dude, that had to be awesome.
Oh yeah, we have recordings and stuff of us playing. It's wild. It's wild. That's 12 years not knowing each other. 12 years. Like age 17, sitting down with them, and we're just rapping. No problem. So I did get quite a bit from him, but a lot of it, yeah, I just kind of learned from playing along with bands that I liked and books and such. Yeah.
So I have a question that I've been asking, and the question is what do you, as a guitar player, expect from a bass player that you play with?
Be the bridge between me and the drummer.
Now, can you explain that a little more in depth for anyone listening?
Like for instance, if you're playing bass and you're just playing along with me, that's cool because at least we're in key. But if you're not focusing on the drums too, like you were talking about with groove and things like that, then that's only half of it to me. Like you're talking about, like, with groove and all that kind of thing and getting the feel and playing along with drums. To me, that's just as important because the rhythm section is the trunk of the tree.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a great
go off on your own, do your thing. You know what I mean? It's really, you'll find you always. I always found my favorite bass players are the ones that are adventurous while they're jamming. And that just comes from just free jamming, no structure, just get going and just hit record because you might do something cool and you want to come back to it. But just free jam together. That's one of the things I don't know if I give Taven Markov enough credit because I grew up with that dude since I was like 17 years old. Did you ever meet Taven?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. He is. I know he's more known as an audio guy and a sound guy, but he is just as sick, if not more so, on drums. And I know he still is. It's still in there, I'm sure. He always leaves me on red all the time these days, though. But anyway, he's a busy guy. But him and I used to jam together constantly. Him and I were like Bill and Ted. We would go to Eaton Park together, go back to the studio and play. Just him and me. And if we can get our bass player friend to come play with us too, that was great. Or if it was before that, it was at his stepdad's house when he was still living there, or at my place. And we just jammed. We actually had a project name for it called Ars Nova, ARSNOVA. And this was back in like 99, 98, 2000, 2001 a little bit. And that was before I moved to New York for the first time. And we would just hit record and play. That was the band. That was the recording. We would never plan it. Maybe a couple little bits, little moments where we liked playing. Like, oh yeah,
sure.
Too. But generally we would just go. Or we'd make an entire jam based around it. We'd hit record and we would just edit out the parts that were total shit. That was it. That we'd name the song something completely inappropriate.
Do you still have copies of that stuff?
Somewhere.
Nice.
I can hook you up.
Dude, I'm curious. I've always heard I've always heard that he's a beast on the drums. But
he's sick. And the thing is, he locks in with you really well when he's playing along with you. That's him and I would just get it right in the zone together, and we'd lock every time. We would communicate. We would both pick up the tempo at the same time, come down at the same time. You
guys understood the stage language, you know?
Oh, we totally did. But we never did it live because we didn't know what the hell we were going to do live. It was just like,
you're like,
would this translate?
Wait, we have to try. We have to try.
You know what? When the jam bands thing kicked off, we probably would have been like Milk and Cereal, but heavier, because we were still Dream Theater fans. But it was totally stream of consciousness, for better or worse. So we would definitely, the bad nights would be awful. The great nights would be amazing.
You know, for anyone that hasn't checked out Dream Theater, you definitely should. The first time I ever listened to Dream Theater was when you suggested that I listen to them. And, man, their band, every video I've watched and everything I've ever seen of those guys are amazing. I cannot believe how much drums that guy has. It is so crazy. Just the orchestration.
Oh, you mean
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
You know, something that I never looked up or I never thought about checking out until last night. So I went on YouTube and I typed in VR concert, and the first thing to pop up was a Hailstorm. The band Hailstorm.
Yeah.
They have like a VR video. Now, I don't have a VR headset or nothing, but you could like take the mouse and you could like swipe it around and stuff and look 360 degrees.
We thought about doing that
in
person too.
Dude, how awesome would it be to be sitting there watching a guitar player and just watch their fingers just going, oh my God, and then you could like really see what they're doing. Like, could you imagine watching Dream Theater play like from the stage with that 360 view?
I love just watching, like, and a lot of the DVDs you can actually watch like just overhead shots of the drummer for the entire song, and they would release just that. I can't remember on which DVD. I know that there's a lot of that like on Portnoy's Liquid Drum Theater video. But I know that they've put out a lot of videos of just drums, and it's just him playing drums, and that's it throughout the entire song, and you're just watching like.
You know, the last person that I really watched a video like that of the drummer back there was Morgan Rose playing from Seven Dust.
Oh yeah,
dude, they were playing. What the hell song was it? I can't remember what song it was. It wasn't Bitch, but it was one of their more notable songs. But it was the coolest video because he's sitting back there, he's playing, and they're doing their thing. For people that don't know, Morgan Rose, he's the drummer for Seven Dust. He's actually the guy that made the band and like started the band. But
really? He's the instigator.
Yeah. You know, what's funny about him is he said when he was picking the members of the band, he didn't pick the best musicians. He just picked the people that wanted it the most. And I always thought that was really cool because a lot of people think of Seven Dust and think of Lejean, who's a singer, and they think of just the great songs. Band, yeah. But Morgan Rose is the guy that developed the band and formed the idea. But long story short, they're playing the song. I can't remember what the hell song it was, but he's sitting there playing it, and he does this thing where the bass player is walking across, and he throws the stick up, and the bass player catches, the bass player catches it, and he switches out, because then he throws it out to the crowd or something. I can't remember. It's been a while. But he does this note where he like throws his stick to the bass player. But how more in tune with a bass player can you be as a drummer if you're literally throwing a stick to the bass player in time, catching it on the song? But, you think of bands like that and how much they've worked and how awesome it would be to see an actual concert in in the VR. But just being able to see it from the back, that's awesome enough. But to see it in like 3D, dude, could you imagine people learning how to play stuff, watching those videos in 3D?
There's still a lot of places in lockdown. Sorry.
I said, could you imagine people learning to play the guitar now if they were learning from virtual reality videos in 3D? It's the best
time ever to learn. Yeah. There's so much out there that you can do. I mean, everything from jam along tracks on YouTube to, like we were talking about how like the different parts of like an entire song is completely tabbed out in tracks. You can mute them individually just on going on a freaking website now. I mean, there's just so much that's there now that wasn't there when we were coming up.
It's wild. And like Band Lab.
And I know it dates us by saying that, but whatever.
Well, it's like Band Lab. They're the ones that,
Thanks for turning me on to that, by the way. I didn't know about that. I told Edgerly about it too. He's all about it.
Dude, want to know something that's really, I think is cool about it too, is that when you're mixing down the song, you can have everybody in a chat group or in a lobby, and you can be, talking probably on like Zoom or any of them, but it shows in real time people making adjustments to it. So if you were in like a chat group and you were like, okay guys, well, if you listen to this part here, if you focus on the guitar, well, what do you think about that? And it's like you're sitting there on your computer with your DAW at your house, and another guy is here and another guy is there, but it gives you the functionality of being able to mix it down together. Like, sure, it's only a basic, simple version of that. On it and bam. Yeah, like imagine when you go in the big board, like more into Cakewalk and more into Reaper and those kind of things, and do the similar thing, but in real time. Like it just the technology now is just it's amazing.
Hey, are you guys all free? Oh no, I got the kids. I can't come to that day.
But I could jump online. Reaper has this thing called Ninjam that you're supposed to be able to link up and jam in real time with people.
That's wild.
But
how do you do that in time? That's crazy. I was wondering about that.
Because it goes off of it goes off of a click track, and it's the click track. So basically, your click track is what's going to keep you honest and keep you on one, to my understanding. I'm not sure. Okay. Because I haven't installed Ninjam, because you basically have to create a server for the other people in your band to be able to come to that server with the Reaper software and link up.
Server is like a virtual.
It's all digital. You should look into it.
So you don't have to link a server at your house or something.
No, it's all cloud everything.
Doing everything still. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm still used to having to do, all this stuff. But like for instance, I'm backing everything up on the cloud now. I'm doing everything cloud-based now. But when you remember when you didn't have that, you do appreciate it differently, though.
Oh, absolutely. If it's
almost overwhelming.
I would like, because when the pandemic first hit, like even slightly before that, honestly, I was trying to figure out how to do band practices so that way the guys didn't have to always come out all the way out here and stuff. Now I have a better studio put together and a lot of things, so now I would prefer to do it. But it would be
perfect.
awesome if you could be like you said, on a Sunday, 3:00 in the afternoon, and gonna get on and jam with the boys for an hour. How much fun would that be nowadays? Once they get that, because there will come a time soon enough where they will figure that out, and it will be simple. Ninjam is one that I've heard
two or
a
three
lot
moves
about.
away from that.
It would be
probably super close. That way, I mean,
it would be
you're home
so
with the
awesome.
kids, you could still jam out. Yeah.
It would be.
We're not young anymore. You know what I mean? Everyone's got their older lives now.
And it's hard to hit stages and make that time, like you said, because people got jobs, they got careers that they're working, or they have their family they're trying to take care of, or paying hobbies, or whatever education, whatever you have. That's why it makes things like where we're at here talking. We're using Skype now. I tried to use a different program, whatever. This made it super easy. Gosh, the internet is just such a blessing and a curse, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Seriously, that's one of the reasons I had to get off Facebook too.
Yeah, that's right. You said you had gotten off there.
The curse started to outweigh the blessing.
And that makes the experience and the enjoyment of it again not happening. It's the same as we had said about.
It felt like
it puts you in a mind. It puts you in a mind frame for some reason. You just get on there and you're just like, it's gonna be this or it's gonna be that. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be that. And then you get on there and you're like, but why am I spending all this time just? Anyways, I should be sitting there playing guitar, building my finger strength, practicing these things, getting a stress ball, all those kind of things. Before we close it out for the day, do you have a good hand exercise that you could suggest for me?
Sure.
In fact, on the bass guitar, but obviously the guitars are guitars. What would you say is a good hand exercise for me on the guitar?
Are you getting pain anywhere?
What's that?
Are you getting any pain anywhere?
Generally about here, if at all.
Now, I don't know if you're flipped. Is that your left hand?
This is my left hand. Yeah, my fretboard hand. Just probably about an inch under the knuckle of my third of my ring finger. If I ever get pains, that's generally seems to be the spot. Yeah.
Okay.
So the left hand.
I would do.
Stretch them back.
Force push. Full extension. Up your elbow, and then pull back.
Okay.
And then involve your thumb a little bit too.
But that makes sense. To bring them in, okay.
Backwards, and then this one. This is a good one. This is one.
Duck face.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like the spaghetti sauce, Lou.
Yeah. The spicy meatball. Yeah. Nice.
And then pull it back too.
Okay.
Yep. And then what? And then there's your blood points. So there's one right here you can work. And then just stretch, just kind of do some arm circles, stretch out a little bit. It's humbling. It's humbling as hell to do this. But I mean, even teenagers, it helps. But
you don't want your body to be tense when you're practicing.
Yeah. Or grab a book or something flat, and lay your fingers out and spread them out as far as you can. Actually,
wow, I've never heard of that.
It looks very tense as you do this. If you have it on a flat surface, it actually gives them a rest in a way.
Takes the pressure off, just like with your neck to the back of a chair. You can be sitting close.
I don't know why, but I really found that it helps. If I just spread all my fingers out and just spider them out on a flat surface, and then just kind of, not too fast or hard though. If you're hurting, don't whip. Also.
Could cause damage.
You can give yourself like a kind of like a 10 whiplash kind of thing. So like if you're hurting, like don't go crazy with it or whatever, like I just did.
As an example.
Yes, and not some people I see them, like I've watched them end their gig doing that.
Well, the other day, so I've been working on
just looking at it.
I've been working on more scales and more things, and I was really slapping the bass, and trying to do it kind of like a 12 bar blues. And I noticed, after a little bit, I'm like, gosh, that's the most my hand has ever hurt hitting like on a fretboard. And
Yeah.
I've done some pretty intricate things, I feel, but I don't know why, what it was, but stretching, that would definitely probably help
Oh,
alleviate
this is
that.
good too.
Oh, okay. To pull on them straight up. Are you trying to
Yeah,
pop the
yeah. Not
knuckles, or
super
you
hard,
just
but just kind of, just move some blood around. Just
popping?
too.
Okay, not focusing
For
on
me, that's a
popping.
big one because of the power of bar chords and things like that. And also, one thing, I don't know how transferable to bass it is,
Hmm.
but on classical guitar, if you let the weight of your arm play a role, it helps. Instead of putting all the note pressure with just these two,
Hmm.
if you let your arm hang on the note on your hand a little bit, it takes some pressure off of your thumb muscle too.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Just the
See,
weight of your hand alone, unless someone's playing an instrument that's not set up very well and the strings are like this high or something like that. But generally,
you got to
if you
find
let the weight
comfort.
of your arm do a lot of the work, it really lets you can actually, you could sometimes even take your thumb out of the equation. Like, say if you're hurting, I've had that happen where, like, okay, I'm getting sore. Okay, so I'm just going to play the notes and just just hang my arm on my chords for a minute while I twiddle my thumb for a minute, and then I'll, come back.
These are all great
Just pull
suggestions.
back with your arm.
I'm definitely excited to be to try some of these new techniques and things.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been taking this all, I've been grinding, man, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I told you I wanted to talk to you, about everything, because you're so knowledgeable, because you've had so much experience doing it,
Yeah.
and I definitely
Well,
have appreciated, all the suggestions, man.
yeah, no problem. It's like you were saying, because I saw you did another one where you were talking about um, proper practice.
Hmm.
And yeah, practicing correctly is the main thing because it's so much better to put 5 minutes of proper practicing in than it is to not play all week and grind for an hour. That's really how you hurt yourself too, because you're not exercising, and then you're just suddenly just throwing your body into and your tendons and your fingers into something that you haven't done all week, and they don't like that.
Yeah, stretch them
So
out,
even if you
keep the
do it
fatigue
10
down.
minutes a day, something like that is way better than a 2 hour cram session or something like that, especially as we get to be less and less spring chickens.
Well, and that's the thing. I know I'm approaching the 40-mile club myself, and I know you're at level what, 41, you said.
Yeah, I always like that.
Me
Yeah.
too. Um, I definitely notice that my hands used to never hurt nowhere near as bad as they do now.
And if they
Whether
do, you just give them a rest. That's all. Yeah.
that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
It's
only
okay to have
human.
them hurt. We're doing crazy. We're pushing metal against metal, but just, when it's time to rest, it's time to rest. Let them hang loose off the chair for a minute.
Want to
Another
be
thing too that I
comfortable.
thought about is mindset. Like when you're sitting there playing, intention has always been one of my things too. I forgot to mention earlier is when you're picking the guitar up, that's when you're deciding what you're going to do with it. If are you going to are you going to have the TV on and you're going to couch jam and just work some stuff? That's cool too. Um, are you sitting down and playing with the intention of writing something? So um, a lot of it has to do with setting a goal for that practice.
Goal
At the
oriented
beginning,
practice.
what's your goal? What are you shooting for?
What's your intention? That makes sense.
Yeah, I got from John Petrucci's book the trick of filing away your practice materials, which is which I have a digital version of now. But when I read it, that was when I was buying guitar magazines, excuse me, left, right, and center over at Borders when that was still open. And they had those import. guitar magazines like Metal Hammer, and well, that's a metal magazine, but a lot of guitar magazines that you didn't normally get in the States, but Borders had them. And I would get stuff constantly. And for some reason I had a subscription to one that I never signed up for, but I kept getting them every month. Of course, I never fought them on it, but I would actually X-Acto knife out a lot of the lessons that applied to what I was shooting for. And he was explaining in his book, and it was actually, I think it was originally in his article, in his column in Guitar World, but they were all made into a book and compiled about creating your practice materials and organizing them. Like say you have a filing cabinet, digitally, analog, however you do it. You got real folders, whatever, and you would make a folder for right hand tapping. You'd have a folder for chords. You have a folder for chord technique. You have a folder for lead. You have a folder for scales. So what you would do is you would kind of, okay, how long do I have to practice today? Okay, I have a half an hour. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes on this article for chords, and I'm going to spend 20 minutes on this one about scales. So you kind of create your practice in a very studious, idealistic manner of just very organized, and that way you can kind of, what do I feel like working on? Oh, okay, well I feel like working on legato. Okay, cool, I have a folder full of legato stuff. That's mostly turned into things that I make screenshots of and shove in my digital folders now, which I can get to, like, for instance, like we were talking about the cloud. I have it on my phone. I have links to it from my laptop, and whatever I need, it's right there.
Yeah,
it's like a buffet.
It sounds very, the theory behind all that is just like weightlifting.
Super left brain. I have to really work at it.
You got like leg day, arm day,
that's exactly it.
That makes sense. You work on these that day. Just be very focused and driven for that.
Just plan it out.
Or
just decide to spend 40 minutes of just free jamming.
Which is fine as long as that's your intention.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Plan it out. Like have a plan, and practice what you don't know more than what you do know. Because a lot of people they love learning, they love playing that one riff that they learned 5 years ago, and it's still their go-to, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it might be they forget how cool it was to finally learn it. So learn more stuff.
Tom Morello, the guitar player from Rage Against the Machine. I was reading an article one day about him, and they were saying something about how, what was he practicing? Like how was he practicing? What things he was focusing on?
He's in a different building.
And they said he told him, he said, well, I used to practice scales, and then I started practicing my mistakes, and that's all I do is that's all I do is practice my mistakes. Mm-hmm. And
that's subconscious learning the rules before you break them. He's a big hand washer too.
Oh, really?
Before I start practicing, I can't remember which magazine it was, but he said in one of these magazines, he makes sure he washes his hands before he starts playing. Because
you never know what's on your hand. Yep. Yeah, could be grit, anything. That makes wow. I never actually thought about the hand. Well, Tom Morello, as you said, he is definitely a very unique style.
Yeah, you can't duplicate players like him.
No,
because he's just wired in a completely different way.
And that's because that's all.
I could never try to learn a Steve Vai song. He's just his own. He's just in such a different world. I can learn it, but you can't learn. Like, you can't be him.
You can't learn feeling like that.
Yeah, you really can't. Like, he's a completely other. Yeah. What was it? It was on Weird Al's Running with Scissors CD. That was also it was also an interactive CD that you can put on your computer, and it had some videos in it. And there was a blues player, and I don't know what his real name was, but he's like my big Weird Al's sitting there on the tour bus, and he's like, my favorite my biggest inspiration was my uncle, Blind Lemon Yankovic. And it was this black blues player guy, which made it even funnier because I'm not sure how they're related, but he's just sitting there like,
Especially at that time, things
by
were.
marriage or something anyway. But the way it was delivered made it even funnier because he's sitting there. Now I suppose my real claim to fame, the Blind Lemon Yankovic, my real claim to fame was playing the world's shortest blues song. And he grabs our harmonica. I didn't wake up this morning. Thank you very much. And he's like, and Alfred came up to me one day and he said to me, Uncle Blind Lemon, can you teach me the blues? And that's when I took a cat of nine tails to that boy's backside, because the blues cannot be taught, but they can be felt. I'm like, I'm watching this on video that was mass produced on a CD.
Like Rafiki on The Lion King. He says, "Why'd you do that?" He says, "Doesn't matter." He says, "It still hurts." Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Keep playing.
Oh, that's too funny. That makes you think of like the Jacksons. That's what they did all day, every day. They practiced, and when they didn't, they got whooped. They got beat by switches and shit.
Oh yeah, they had to get those switches themselves, I think.
Yeah, he would make them go out to the tree and pick which one they wanted to get hit with.
Yeah, get a hickory stick.
But if that's what you want, that's what you do. You grind. People don't realize how much effort and how much work it takes, and it does.
It's not easy. Yeah.
There's some people that figure out the path a lot faster and a lot easier than others. Mm-hmm. But it's never an easy battle, no matter what kind of music or what instruments, or
especially if you know what you want and you have a vision of what and how you want it to go.
It sounds.
It can. One moment of that show can ruin the whole thing for you.
Everything we've talked about tonight, what the word that stuck out to me the most tonight is intention. Because you're only going to get out of it what you intend to get out of it. If you want to practice, because I remember if you listen to the episode, I said about effort being so important. Intention, that right there makes a lot of sense to be its co-partner in the drive of getting better. You got to have intention, because yes, if you don't put in the effort, you're not going to do it. But it also, you have to know where you want to go, or what you want to do, or what you want to achieve. Whether you're sitting down and listening to a song, is your intention to sit down and listen to the song, or is your intention to listen to the album? If your intention is for this and that word really, I don't know, it really stood out to me tonight. I wanted you to know that.
Cool, man.
And that's what all this is about my intention of becoming a better bass player and a better musician, and in those things I'll become.
You sat down and made the call. Yeah.
I appreciate all your time, and I'm glad we got to do this today.
Thanks for having me.
We should definitely do this again here pretty soon.
Anytime.
I mean, you and I, we can always sit and shoot the shit because that's what we do.
That's good.
But, we'll definitely have to do this again soon. I appreciate you taking the time again out of your day. And we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, but with life,
I've been looking forward to this. Yeah. I needed this.
I wanted to say again, we lost a great musician, Mr. Ralph Chamberlain Sr. here on the 2nd. And he's a guy that always worked hard, and he always encouraged everyone around him to be your best. He let you know what he thought, and he would also let you know what it takes. And and it's some common ground. We know him very well. So again, rest in peace, Big Ralph, and your lessons will never be forgotten. Other than that, we've had Labor Day. We've had just other, things are going on. But I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad with all your advice and your insight on things. For anyone that's looking to get a hold of you in the future, do you have any social platforms or anywhere you want, people to know they can find you if they have questions or just whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on. Let me pull up my Instagram. I'm Darkstrings440 on Instagram.
Dark Strings 44. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
just
then you said
Darkstrings440.
you
For
said you
some
got
reason that wasn't
YouTube.
taken. I can use that without numbers in some places too. It's crazy.
Well, that's how Sprangboro was.
Yeah,
No one had nothing ever had an A
never
on
thought
it.
of it.
I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, thank
mine.
you. You
Yeah,
know, and it makes me laugh thinking about that. So I understand
it was
about
either
the
that or Fret Dust. I wasn't sure which one.
fret dust.
Yeah,
Nice.
that sounds like a lame transformer, but anyway,
Yeah, but that'd be one badass one.
it would
Um,
be. His superpower is he turns into a fret file or something
a,
like
f-
that.
a fret file that sets up your guitar accurately.
Yeah.
But if you piss him off, he won't. It'll never be right. He'll make you
No.
overthink it.
Oh yeah. Loose wires all over the place inside that don't break until after the warranty. All that shit.
Um, I appreciate you,
I've seen
Lucien,
people
as
do that.
always,
Not
brother.
people, but I've seen companies do that.
I definitely appreciate having you here. I definitely think we should do this again real soon because I got a lot more questions that I have. Um,
Yeah. Now,
I,
one thing I do have to mention too is that
yes,
we were talking about,
please
if you don't
do.
mind, I gotta
No,
give a
please
shout
do.
to the fact that I wouldn't be repairing guitars right now
Hmm.
if not for the Sea Hollies.
Favorite band, hands down.
It goes right back. Really, I was doing it, but I wasn't doing it for like players. Like the people I did it in high school for, and when they were in college and things like that, and they got to know me through school and all that. That I of course I'll never shake a stick at that. But when I was doing it for a band in the area that was out there just crushing it,
A relevant band.
being part of that, day one, they're like, "You're family now." I'll never forget that. Ever.
It's amazing
And
what they've done for
yeah,
this community and for
that
us
really
as
helped
individuals.
take me to it went from a hobby or something for myself to something that just really kicked it off, because that actually helped me have the confidence to say yes to doing a tour with Pete Steele with Carnivore when I was living in New York also. And then that got me into, I was able to put that on my resume, and I'm not sure how much that may have helped me quite a bit. I'm not sure, but I know mentally it did. It definitely put me that probably helped me be as fast as I am.
Because of
if
the
someone
practice.
playing live, you got to be ready to do it. So maybe that helped with my speed. I don't know, but I know that those live experiences, I couldn't talk about repairs with guitars without mentioning those dudes.
And I remember watching you on the side of the stage, always being ready and always just watching
intense.
like a hawk.
Oh yeah.
Well, because they get, dude, their show.
And it would.
There's
because
the show. Their show.
Ralph would walk in 360-degree circles all the time. Well, he did for a while. He didn't after a while. I think he caught on to it and he realized, okay, if I walk in the same circle between songs too many times, eventually my mic cord gets tangled up.
Gets tangled up, yeah.
Yep. And so it became a thing. It became a funny thing where Taven and I would have to run up and pop his mic, and Ralph would just stand there laughing, and he'd kind of thumb at us while we were, and we'd look at him.
Like you're twisting the chord.
Here you go.
Yeah. But those were
Walk the other way sometimes.
But those were the great times.
Oh, dude, I wouldn't have traded those days for the world, and I miss Teal every day.
Oh,
I think about that guy every day.
Again,
he's like a big brother to me.
Again, a player so on his own level, man.
You want to talk about crazy, expressive chord coloration? That's Bill Teal. Just the stuff that he came up with, because he was capable of. I mean, he cut his teeth on Yngwie and George Lynch and players like that, but for him to then go from those days, from when he was in like in Playground and things like that, where he was really shredding it up all the time. It was always there when you needed it, but then when it was time to shift into a band that was modern, but he could throw those things in there, and then he became a Meshuggah fan. he just became a beast because he really just adapted. I watched it happen. I watched him do it every freaking day. And then just to watch him, how he operated with people on a business level off stage, I don't know if he ever realized like just how many cues I took from him on that kind of thing, even off stage.
I think it would be fun for us to sit down and have a C. Hawley conversation here pretty soon.
I could talk about those guys all night.
Oh, you and I both. I think we should plan that here in the next very few weeks because
that'd be amazing.
I
know you see Ralph pretty often now, right?
Yeah, I can. Well, even if we can get him on here or something,
Just him alone. I mean, whoever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I've already talked to him. about being on this.
Because I know you're in touch with him very closely.
Oh yes. Well, yes.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, I could definitely talk to him because I already asked him if he wanted to be on the 40 to 400 sometime, and he said yeah.
Oh, cool.
So what I can do is I'll get a hold of him.
He can tell you stories about me too.
Well, I can have him come over, and then him and I could sit here, and we could talk to you, and we could go down some of that memory lane. That would be fun, dude. We should do that.
There was one time I forgot which song he played on. I would have his guitar ready. Remember?
Oh, what was the name of that one? Was it? It was off of Touring, wasn't it? Oh, what the hell was that song called?
See, that's how I forgot too.
But now I'm gonna go.
And he comes over to me mid-show, and he's just standing there. And he's like, and I was like, yeah, it's this song. And he's like, yeah, I know, I play on it. Oh my god!
It's like my bad.
The case open and checking the tuning. And
oh, what the hell song was that? Not Moonlit.
It was hilarious. I'm gonna kill. I'm gonna beat myself to death for forgetting this. Because I know it's at the tip of my tongue. I'm hearing it right now in my head.
What the heck's that song called? I have the CD case downstairs. I could go grab it. Actually, I got the whole song list here. I could find.
If I heard the song title, I'd remember it now. I never forgot it after that. Who's at the barracks one night?
I know I don't always say the right thing.
That's the one. Yeah.
And I guess I'll never know. I need to know. That's the one.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Oh my!
I think there was another one too, and they mixed it up.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm telling you.
I would after that I would highlight which one it was so that I knew, so that it would be smooth.
Yeah, whenever I have them come over, I'll get a hold of them, and dude, that would be fun to go down that memory lane.
Oh my god,
we're gonna make it happen.
Let me tell you about how I didn't notice that Teal blew a string. Because sometimes they would come over to Taven and me and just kind of like play at us for a minute, and we'd vibe back with
like, yeah, killing it, and they're like trying to point down the string.
So Teal looks over at me, and he's still trying to play. I didn't see from the lighting that he blew a string. He blew his low E, and I'm just like, and he takes the string to like, so that I would finally realize, and goes, yeah.
like one of those things.
I'm grabbing Ralph's guitar out for him for a minute. Then he had the synth, so he had to go straight in for that because he didn't have the pickup on that one.
Yep.
And then for that moment,
there was no pickup on that guitar. It was just a synth.
No, it was a synth and a screaming demon at the bridge.
Huh.
Yeah.
That sound was so unique.
It was. It was that with an RP12. That's it. In his hands. That's the thing. But it sounded like a chainsaw from hell, though. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Like how he got it to sound like that, and I'm not just saying that because because I missed the guy and everything.
I would love for the world.
10 years ago.
I would love for the world to be able to get on Spotify and all that, and be able to.
I keep telling Aaron, like, please post that stuff on there. I don't know why he hasn't yet.
Honestly. I don't know what's.
And I say that with all the love in the world. I'm sure he has his reasons.
Oh, Aaron!
I mean, of the stuff.
Anyone that knows me knows how much I look up to Aaron. as a bass player. You know, he's so good and so yeah. That band,
Effortless.
but that band will always be my favorite band.
I never saw him screw up. He was like a professor.
Because all he did was practice, and that's all he did. More than anyone, I'm sure.
And those guys, they got together like twice a week. I didn't see Tony. I never saw Tony screw up. I mean, the fact is, maybe, it's how you make up for it,
Well, you're lacking talent, or you make up in charisma. So, or you master covering mistakes,
or you just hit that electronic drum that goes Remember that?
Oh yeah.
That was just that, and that's the only reason he had it. I don't think he ever used that.
Dude, what was that? What's that song called?
It was just a TD7 pad plugged in.
I remember I remember I was so amazed by Tony when he did that one song. Dun dun dun.
With traditional.
Yeah, traditional hand style. It's like, who does that? Who does that? Who does that?
He did that in Pipe Yard. How the hell did he do that in Pipe Yard?
That guy.
But he's the humblest guy about it in the world.
Those guys were so awesome, man.
He's like, oh, thanks, man.
It's like, are you serious? Do you see what you're doing right now? Like, come on, man.
Why those guys didn't get a good deal? I'm sure they could have taken a bunch of deals. I'm sure they had a bunch of deals thrown at them. I was never in the room for that. That was them.
Yep.
I was, part of the family. We're here, but we're going to do some business while you're picking up. I'm like, good luck.
Yep. Dude, but, you were so blessed with being able to be a part of that.
Like that. And I think they were just smart enough to not take a shit deal.
Especially at that time.
What it was. I think they had deals come at them, but that's just my guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like because they had a lot of people come through and check them out. But I think that they were just looking, like, again, I'm just a guess. It's just a guess.
On the outside looking in. Yeah.
That's all it is. It seems to me, because Aaron's a really intelligent guy with that stuff. Like, he was very business oriented. And I think that he would spot a shit deal or a not good enough deal and not go with it. Because some record companies would sign you so that you can't compete with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the in and outs, especially at that time. I mean, we're talking back in what,
hey,
2000?
Too much like our band. Let's sign them so they can't get grabbed up by somebody else.
What was that? Like, remember when they played the Rolling Rock County Fair? Was like 2002?
Oh yeah, see, that was right. Yeah, it was right before I knew them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
I knew them right when Taurine came out, I think.
Okay, well, that's around the time Taurine came out.
Okay, it was between. It was like after that album had been out then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they had played that.
I met them in like 2003.
I gotcha.
I think that's about right. 2003, and then, so it's, but it just seemed like I think they were just so damn smart that they just knew not to take a crap deal. Otherwise, maybe they would have. I don't know.
Yeah, and who knows what the future would have held. But we'll definitely be able to.
They probably knew what they were doing, though. I'm sure. Him and Ralph are both very.
Oh, very intelligent.
They know the scene very, very well.
They're very thorough in that stuff. Yeah, dude, it'd be so much fun to get them on here.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, him, Aaron, Nick, Tony, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the guys and see about talking sometime. That's a great idea. Doesn't even have to be for this podcast. It'd just be fun to do something.
Just the bullshit. It'd be nice to see those guys again. Yeah, I'd drive out for that. I'd drive out for chocolate milk. One
of the things that I felt so blessed about was they had a benefit for senior, and Aaron and Ralph played acoustics.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Oh, it was so awesome. They played for like an hour. They played a bunch of the songs, honestly, that they could together, because they both play guitar. It was, dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I still have my backstage pass signed by all of them. A lot of people don't, they'll never realize what that band meant to me, but those those are guys that made me want to get where I am now, and I worked very hard to, you know.
I tell Ralph that when pretty much any chance I get, anytime I can lead into that, just like listen. Like I know things have been tough for Ralph.
Oh yeah.
You know.
But all we can do is lift each other up, man. We're all.
And so I always tell whenever I can, I try to tell him like, dude, I appreciate you big time. I appreciate all those guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, me too. They just set a standard that people don't realize. Honestly,
no one's touched it, and I'm not just saying that because I want to.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth.
They were a whole show. I mean, every show, they treated it like they were playing the Fillmore.
Yep, the lights, the sound, they were just professionals.
It was a whole.
Dude, when they walked into the room, you knew that they were rock stars. When they walked in the room, you looked at them. They had the look, they had the music, they had the everything.
Even off stage.
Yep, exactly. And that's what we're striving for. Like me, I gotta take it. You gotta be accountable and work hard. That's where I am. Yeah, man. Well, I'm looking forward to that episode whenever that may happen.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
I appreciate your time, Lucian.
Yeah,
we will catch up again soon.
We were trying to get going, but I had to give a shot to.
Oh no, I'm glad you did, and rest in peace, Mr. Billy Teal. Yeah, man. In today's 9/11, 20 years.
20 fucking years.
20 years, man. 20 years. And you know what? Here we are, still working hard at things we love, and we're still lucky enough to sit here and talk about it.
Back.
Thanks for helping fill up my some positive vibes and in my soul and in my heart tonight. I needed this in the worst way.
More than I knew. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yep. We'll catch you next time. Have a good one.
Sounds good, man. Take care.